All right, let's dive into a word we use all the time but might not think too much about. Should. We're going to uncover some of its hidden depths, see how much power it really has.
It's pretty amazing how a word that seems so simple can actually be so complex. Yeah, by the end of this, you'll be able to pick up on those subtle meanings and maybe even understand how should affects your own thinking.
I'm excited to see what we find. I mean, where do we even start with should? Seems pretty basic at first glance.
Well, I think a good starting point is to unpack its core meaning. When we say should, we're not exactly laying down hard rules. It's more about what we think is the best way to do something or the right way to do something.
So it's like a recommendation, but from our own point of view.
You got it. It's about expressing a preference, a nudge in a certain direction. And this is where it gets interesting because that nudge can come from all sorts of things, our personal values, societal expectations, all that.
So when I tell my friend, you should really check out this new restaurant, I'm not just suggesting a meal, I'm kind of revealing my own taste.
Exactly. And the more we understand these subtle influences, the better we can decode the real meaning behind the shoulds we hear every day.
Okay, so should is definitely more than meets the eye. But isn't it mostly used for giving advice? Like, you should get some more sleep or, you should watch this show.
Absolutely. Giving advice is like should's main job. But even in those everyday examples, it's interesting to think about the motivations behind it. When we give advice, we're kind of projecting our own beliefs onto others about what's good or bad or whatever.
Like saying, if I were you, this is what I'd do.
Right. And that's why it's important to be aware of that, both when you're giving advice and when you're getting it. Gotta ask yourself, whose values are really at play here? Does this advice actually fit my own needs?
Those are some deep questions, man. It's making me realize how much should can influence our choices, even in everyday situations.
It is. It's a subtle form of persuasion, shaping our ideas of what's right or expected. But should goes beyond just personal advice. It can also be used to express opinions on a bigger scale.
Oh, right. Like when people say things like, the government should do more for the environment, or, social media should be better at stopping harassment.
Precisely. In these cases, should is used to advocate for actions or policies based on a particular worldview or set of values.
So it's about what ought to be, in a bigger sense.
Exactly. And this is where things get tricky. Because whose should wins out? Whose vision of the world takes priority?
Sounds like a battle of the shoulds, each one fighting to be on top.
That's a great way to put it. And understanding this can help us navigate all those complex public discussions and really evaluate the shoulds that are thrown at us all the time.
Man, now I'm starting to see shoulds everywhere. And it's definitely not as simple as I thought.
And we're just scratching the surface. There are even more layers to uncover, like how should works in the past tense.
Wait, should has the past tense? Now I got to hear about this.
Think about those times you think to yourself, ugh, I should have studied harder for that test. Or I should have said something when I had the chance. That's should in the past, usually with a bit of regret mixed in.
Oh, yeah, I know that feeling. Looking back and wishing you had done something different.
Exactly. And this use of should can be really revealing. It shows us how we understand cause and effect. Our past actions have consequences, and maybe we could have chosen a different path.
It's a powerful concept. I want to dig into those implications more. But before we do that, I'm curious about something you said earlier about how should can be influenced by societal expectations. Can you expand on that a little?
Sure. Should often reflects the norms and values of the society we live in. Think about it. We're constantly getting messages about what we should be doing, how we should be acting, even what we should be feeling.
So should is kind of a way of enforcing those social norms.
Absolutely. Think about all the shoulds we hear growing up, right? Always be polite to your elders, work hard and be successful, be a good citizen, and follow the rules. All these shape our understanding of what's acceptable in society.
It's like an invisible script we're all supposed to follow.
Precisely. And sometimes those societal shoulds can be helpful, guiding us toward good behaviors, but they can also be limiting, making us feel pressured to fit in with expectations that might not match who we really are.
That's a good point. Not all shoulds are created equal.
Right.
Some might be based on old-fashioned or even harmful norms.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to think critically about the shoulds around us. Question where they come from, what their assumptions are, and decide for ourselves if they really fit our own values and goals.
It's about taking back our own choices, not letting those outside shoulds control our lives.
Well said. And as we continue our deep dive, we'll explore even more aspects of should to help you navigate its complexities and use its power in your own life. We were just talking about how should can reflect those societal norms and expectations, sometimes even pressuring us to conform. But, should doesn't always have to be so serious, right?
That's true. Sometimes it's used in a lighter way, almost playfully.
Exactly. And one of the most interesting things about should is that it can express probability or likelihood. It's like saying, based on what I know, this is probably what's going to happen.
Oh, right. Like when you say the traffic should be lighter this weekend or, there should be some milk left in the fridge. You're not really giving advice or making a rule. It's just stating a probability based on your experience.
Precisely. And it's fascinating how this use of should relies on our understanding of patterns and routines and expectations. We use our knowledge of the world to make predictions about what's likely to happen.
So when I say my favorite bakery should be open on Saturday, I'm kind of assuming it's usually open on Saturdays, unless something unexpected happened.
Exactly. And the more familiar we are with a situation or a pattern, the more confident we feel using should to express that probability.
This is making me think about how we use should to talk about the past, which you mentioned earlier, like when we say, I should have taken an umbrella or they should have arrived by now. Is that also about probability?
That's a great question. When we use should have in the past tense, we're often expressing a judgment about what we think should have happened, even if it didn't. It's a way of looking back and evaluating past choices or outcomes.
So it's not just about regret, it's also about analyzing cause and effect and maybe learning from our mistakes.
Absolutely. Should have can be a really powerful tool for reflection and self-improvement. It helps us consider different paths we could have taken and think about what we might do differently next time.
Like having a built-in time machine for analyzing our decisions.
Exactly. And sometimes this reflection can bring up feelings of regret or disappointment, especially if we feel like we made the wrong choice.
But it can also be a chance for growth and learning, right? By looking at our past decisions through that should-have lens, we can gain insights into our motivations and our values, maybe even identify patterns in our behavior.
That's a great point. And this brings us to another interesting aspect of should, its potential for sarcasm.
Oh, yeah. You mentioned that earlier. Tell me more about the sarcastic side of should.
Well, think about how we sometimes use should to say the opposite of what we really mean, especially when we want to be ironic or mock disapproval.
Okay, I needed an example.
Imagine someone spills coffee all over themselves, like right before a big meeting. You might say, with a raised eyebrow, well, that's just fantastic. You should have been more careful.
Ah, I see what you mean. You're not actually suggesting they should have spilled the coffee. You're using should to emphasize how ridiculous the situation is, maybe even poke a little fun at their clumsiness.
Exactly. It's a way of using language playfully, adding a layer of irony or humor.
So the tone of voice and the context are really important for understanding that sarcastic intent.
Absolutely. Without those cues, the listener might completely misinterpret the message.
This is making me realize how much should depends on shared understanding and subtle cues. It's not always about the literal meaning of the words. It's about how we use them to communicate those deeper meanings and intentions.
That's a key insight. And as we become more aware of these nuances, we get better at navigating all the complexities of communication.
So we've covered a lot. Advice, opinions, probability, past regrets, even sarcasm. But I have a feeling there's even more to uncover with should, right?
You're absolutely right. We've explored a lot of how should works in language, but we haven't dug into its deeper implications yet. What about the emotional weight should carries? How does it affect our sense of self and our relationships with others?
So we've been really digging into all the different layers of should, from giving advice to that surprising connection to sarcasm. But you brought up something about the emotional weight of should. What did you mean by that?
It's interesting how such a simple word can carry so much emotional baggage. Just think about how often you hear should every day from parents, friends, coworkers, even the media. It's always shaping our idea of what's right, what's expected, what's acceptable.
It's like this invisible pressure pushing us towards certain behaviors and choices.
Exactly. And that pressure can be really strong, sometimes leading to guilt or a sense of obligation, even anxiety, if we don't live up to all those shoulds around us.
Oh, I know that feeling for
Oh,
sure. Sometimes it's like there's this chorus of shoulds in my head telling me what to do, how to feel, even who to be.
And that's precisely why it's so important to develop like a critical awareness of the shoulds that we internalize. We got to recognize that not all shoulds are created equal, right? Some might be helpful while others are based on outdated norms or just unrealistic expectations.
So how can we tell the difference between the helpful shoulds and the ones that are just holding us back?
It starts with asking yourself some key questions. Who's saying this should? What are their reasons? Does their should actually align with my own values and goals? And most importantly, what do I think is the best course of action?
It's about owning our choices, not letting external shoulds run our lives.
Mm, exactly. It's about recognizing that we have the power to define our own shoulds based on what really matters to us personally.
This makes me think about the shoulds we put on ourselves too. Like, sometimes we're our own worst critics, always telling ourselves what we should be doing or achieving.
That's such an important point. We can be so hard on ourselves, setting these impossibly high standards. And that pressure from within can be just as tough as the pressure from outside sources.
So it's not just about filtering those external shoulds, it's also about being aware of the ones we create for ourselves.
Exactly. And that takes real self-awareness and compassion. It's about recognizing our own limits and being kind to ourselves when we don't achieve everything we set out to do.
It's like replacing that inner critic with a voice that's more understanding and supportive.
Absolutely. And as we learn to challenge and redefine those shoulds that are running our lives, we open up space for more authenticity, self-acceptance, and personal growth.
This has been a really eye-opening look at should. I'm seeing this word in a whole new way, and I'm definitely going to be more mindful of how I use it and how it affects me.
And that's the amazing thing about language. The more we understand it, the more we can use it to communicate better, make smart choices, and live more authentic lives.
So next time you hear should, take a second to think about what's really going on. Is it helpful advice, a strongly held belief, or is it trying to subtly change your mind? Maybe it's even got a touch of irony or humor in there.
Remember, language is powerful and complex. The more we explore it, the richer our understanding of ourselves and the world around us becomes.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the fascinating world of should. Hope you found it as insightful as I did. Now go out there and use your newfound knowledge wisely.
And always remember, the most important should is the one that comes from within yourself.